It would also restore up to $5 billion of American taxpayer funds for wasteful spending for international projects. Here's a couple of examples. This is in their legislation, their counterproposal on the CR to keep the lights open. This is what they want to do. They want to spend $24.6 million of your hard-earned dollars as a taxpayer for climate resilience in Honduras. They want to spend $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe. They want to send $3.9 million for LGBTQI plus democracy grants in the Western Balkans. They want to spend $2.9 million of your dollars for desert locust risk reduction in the Horn of Africa. And $2 million for, quote, organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa.
What? What's up, everyone? You watch it on air Nick Java podcast here on YouTube. Please like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and you'll be notified of all my upcoming video releases. Guys, the entire situation with this government shutdown has the Democrats wanting obnoxious things once again. Guys, let's get into it and then let's discuss it.
Welcome to day 14 of the Democrat government shutdown. It's 2 weeks of Democrats in Congress inflicting untold pain on the American people for nothing other than pure politics, as we've explained at this podium every day of the shutdown. Today, Senate Democrats will have their 8th chance to end this mess by passing our clean, nonpartisan continuing resolution, the government funding bill that would end all of this immediately.
Now, guys, one thing to think about in this entire situation is that Democrat Chuck Schumer and, Hakeem Jeffries could actually end this. However, we saw back earlier the last possible government shutdown, how Chuck Schumer attempted, and he actually worked with the Republicans and the people in the actual House to actually keep the government open. And he faced massive backlash from his party. So now he wants to just roll with them because election season is coming up.
Over 3 weeks ago, the House passed that bill, and you all know the details of it. It is completely clean. There are no policy changes, no partisan riders, no gimmicks or tricks at all. All it does is keep the lights on at the current funding levels for a few extra weeks while we complete the normal appropriations process. Now compare that to the Democrats' counterproposal. They're demanding $1.5 trillion in new spending paid for by American taxpayers. And I want you to be specific. I want us to be specific. I want you to know what that counterproposal includes, because we've not yet gone into all the details of it, because it's large and very absurd. But here's some of the highlights of this. It would reverse common sense reforms that Republicans made in the Working Families Tax Cut that keep illegal aliens off taxpayer-funded health care. This is a fact. Page 57, section 2141 of their counterproposal is this we've been posting everywhere. And it would, they would add the illegal aliens, non-citizens back to taxpayer-funded benefits. It would cost taxpayers nearly $200 billion. They would also remove a very reasonable and modest work requirement that we put on able-bodied young men with no dependents. As we've said, they should not be riding the wagon and taking Medicaid. That is intended for vulnerable populations, the elderly, disabled, and young pregnant women, for example, and not young able-bodied men without dependents who are playing video games. We put that into the law because it's common sense.
Right.
Their counterproposal would reverse that. So taxpayers would be funding them again. They would make in their counterproposal.
Yeah, guys, one thing to think about here, under Democratic leadership, they actually put people on the government teat, so to speak, in order to have them depending on the government, having to depend on them. And then, therefore, they have to continually, go back to the Democrat Party in order to get their money, to get their goods, get their services, because they don't want to get out and go work. That's what's happening here.
Proposal permanent COVID-era Obamacare subsidies without any income caps or any other reforms at all. They would make that permanent. That would cost taxpayers an estimated $358 billion. They would take away the $50 billion that we put into the law to support rural hospitals. They would remove that. And they would send $500 million to liberal news outlets by refunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It would also.
So Democrats actually want to take money out of what the Republican House wants to actually send money to rural hospitals to help them service people, help them with their health. And they would rather, Democrats want to take that money out of it. They want to take that money out of it and give it to, PBS, because PBS and a couple of these other places, these other particular news outlets are a overreaching extension of the Democrat Party.
Also restore up to $5 billion of American taxpayer funds for wasteful spending for international projects. Here's a couple of examples. This is in their legislation, their counterproposal on the CR to keep the lights open. This is what they want to do. They want to spend $24.6 million of your hard-earned dollars as a taxpayer for climate resilience in Honduras.
Unbelievable.
They want to spend $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe. They want to send $3.9 million for LGBTQI plus democracy grants in the Western Balkans. They want to spend.
Hey, did you guys see that lady's face on the left here? Watch this.
Million for LGBTQI plus democracy grants in the Western Balkans. They want to spend $2.9 million of your dollars for desert locust risk reduction in the Horn of Africa, and $2 million for, quote, organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. We are not doing that. These are unserious proposals from unserious people, and they are playing games while real Americans are being harmed adversely by the shutdown. Yesterday, I read you an excerpt from President Obama's speech during the 2013 shutdown when he advocated for a clean CR to reopen the government and resume negotiations. It sounded very familiar. Democrats cheered him on back then, including Chuck Schumer. He himself said some Republicans' refusal to support a clean CR back then was, quote, the politics of idiocy. Take him at his word.
Got him!
So yesterday we decided to do a little count of the number of times that Chuck Schumer has supported continuing resolutions just since he became the leader of the Democrats in the Senate in 2017. That number came out to 29 out of 30 continuing resolutions. That's how many times he wholeheartedly, enthusiastically supported CRs enacted into law. That's a 97% support rate. What's changed? Well, this time his job is on the line.
Right.
And we've explained this very clearly because everybody can see the obvious political motivation here behind his decision to shut the government down right now. He helped us avert a shutdown in March by doing the right thing and supporting virtually the identically same continuing CR that we're offering today. And his radical base went crazy, and they haven't forgiven him for it.
Absolutely. All right, guys, you watch the Ordinary Nick Joppa podcast here on YouTube. Guys, please subscribe to this channel. Hit like. It helps us keep the lights on. And the bigger this channel gets, the better guests we can get, guys. So, yeah, man. So, anyways, guys, I want to mention something to you. When they talk about a clean CR, that is a clean continued resolution. And what that basically entitles is that the government stays open and, nothing really changes within the actual, documentation. Nothing really changes with the bill, so to speak. That just keeps it open so people can continue getting paid. Now, during this last government shutdown that I think we're in day 14, he said, this last one, basically what's going on is Democrats are wanting to reverse a lot of the amendments that have already been put into action. So, and they want to continue sending your tax dollars over to Africa. They want to continue sending your tax dollars to, working with locusts in a desert somewhere in another country. They want to send your tax dollars to migrants, to get health care here in America. Guys, I really wish that in the future they would drop the R and the D from their actual names and they would actually just run on policies. And then just give everybody the policies that you're running on. Give everybody the policy that you are going to be supporting as a candidate. And the Democrats would never win another election. It's crazy to me that they continually go through this entire predicament trying to bully their way into actual law. And the whole thing with Trump recently putting a ceasefire into effect in Israel and the Gaza Strip is amazing. It's amazing. And, you know, when CNN covers those stories, you know, you see them saying, okay, war is messy, guys. Everybody knows that. But you see CNN, MSNBC writing stories such as Israel hostages released. Okay. And then they'll go back and they'll say Palestinian prisoners released by Israel. You know what, guys? What we attempt to do on this channel is to keep you guys informed on what is actually going on and what is actually happening without so much bias to a point of, you know, if you see BS, if we see BS, we got to call it out on this channel. You know, I've done it. There's a lot of BS going on the left. There is some BS going on the right as well, you know, and I've covered those topics as well. But the thing I would get on here and say is you guys let me know in the comments what you actually think. I think Speaker Johnson actually flamed, you know, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries in this actual video. Show the world what these Democrat politicians are actually holding up the government opening up again for. And what they're holding it open for is for, indeed, healthcare for migrants here in America, taking care of grasshoppers in a desert. What? And all of these crazy things. It's just ridiculous to me. You guys are watching Nick Driver on YouTube. Take care.